grave is yours.
Doctor, lawyer, I'll never be life of a drifter. Only life for me. Bang, bang, bang. Vamonos, vamonos.
Hello everyone, welcome back for the third StarSim dev stream. I'm joined with Vernus again.
Hi, I'm Vernus. Now, today should be a fun one. We're going to show off the stuff we're doing for 109. Silo's going to start. I think we were doing part of the Aquila storylines. So, real quick here. Okay, so, cool. One thing pops up. So, for folks watching right now, this is already in and pretty much done. So, if you already have a game active, like you're saying with Xyla, you can go through. This will pop up by default. You pick it, set it up exactly one time. So, for folks that don't like the Fog of War experience, don't do it. You can pick whatever else you want. So the quick breakdown here is obviously complete Fog of War. It's how it is right now, how a lot of older space sims work. You see nothing but the hubs, which will go into course plotting, which is in here right now, which might make Fog of War substantially easier to get you to those places. Settled systems will be all of United Colonies and Freestar space. That includes their expansion channels, because we had to expand out for the economy. And then complete network map is everything. So obviously there's some spelling errors and stuff here we're still tweaking. So Xyla, here, have at it and turn on whatever one you'd like to turn on. It's your call.
Right, cell systems.
That's my favorite now. So when you select it, it should update and say current selection. And then there you go. And then when we get to the ship later on, we can double check to make sure that it actually turned on all of the UC Freestar.
Could go back that down.
It's up to you if you want to do that. Well, real quick here, before you go back to the ship, bring up your system map, since you're in Cheyenne right now. Oh, okay. That's another bug. I knew that last one was there. Did you just confirm it?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Hold on. I'm going to actually code fix that literally right now while you're in there. This code needs to go here. Done. Okay, that bug's fixed. All right, so big one here, and this is one that a lot of folks have been asking for. It's a two-parter. We'll show the changes in the orbit itself later on when Xyla takes off. If you can highlight some of those orbits, the network orbits in there real quick, Xyla. Just pick a few that are, you haven't really explored a lot of them. All right, when you see that, no, the one you were on there, the gate network one,
That one.
we'll go to that one too. Go back to the other one real quick though. Okay, so this is what they were said before. They were just gate network, whatever the place was. And then you have network intersystem is the new change. So gate network will tell you all the gates in that orbit go to some other place in the same system. If you see network intersystem, it'll say at least one gate in this orbit will take you to somewhere else. And then when we get into space, you'll see what we did with the actual naming of the gates to make it clearer in terms of directions and which gates actually take you to another system. So these are some core changes to make the travel way simpler. Even if you decide to keep the Fog of War on, you'll have this information here that makes it a lot clearer for where you need to go. If you're trying to get out of the system, because we've heard that concern quite a bit about just getting stuck in the system itself, well, now you'll see these names, whether you're in this map here or if you're doing cruise mode, you'll obviously see that name as one of the point of interest to get to. And so you know for a fact if you cruise mode to a network intersystem that when you arrive at that location, a gate will say system gate whatever, and you know if you fly through that gate, you're leaving this system and going somewhere else. Now, where that is, most of the time, since a lot of the systems, the names of the planets are the system, should be clear. There's only so much we can put in a text on these. And so I can't do system gate and then the system colon a bunch of stuff. It cuts off the text. So there's a sense of understanding of unique planet names and what systems they fall in, or just go through the gate and then look at the system and see where you're at kind of thing. Can't go much further than this in terms of text. Just with the way their system is set up, you can't really do sentences, and a lot of stuff in there kind of messes up. So I think this is clear enough with what we have here that if you're going through and checking these, you know you're going to be taken to another place outside of the system each time. Whereas that one, nope. Or that one, nope. Yep, you're in the system for those. That one you're not. Some of those gates in there are going to take you to some place else besides Cheyenne. Cool. Yeah, if you want to go back to the ship, and then we'll take off. Well, we'll show two things real quick too. We made an adjustment today. If you can sneak back to your ship.
Where to next?
Take off, he said.
Get out of your pilot seat. Real quick.
Yeah.
And go to your mapping table. It works now when you're landed and outside the network. Just to show that real quick. Yeah, so it should let you, if you turn it on right now, it should boot up. You're littering in your ship. There it goes. So obviously when you're landed, you're not going to see an active orbit because you're currently not in the network. And because you picked the... Did you do the whole map? No. This is settled systems, right?
Should be.
Okay. Actually, yeah, it looks like that's the case. Yeah, it goes down there is going to be all free star space. So you see right now, right off the bat, Xyla turned on settled systems. So now it's building the map for settled systems. Anywhere that has been explored, stayed explored, so we don't undo the work. You can't actually even do that. And now it has to build this. Now, big thing, it takes some time to build the map. Not a huge amount of time, but this is the quickest we can kind of do it with Papyrus. You don't have to ever toggle this off. Now, it'll go through and clear the map off if you leave the ship. So when you're kind of entering the ship, you come over here, you toggle it on, and then go off and do something else. Let it kind of build the map, especially as you can see right now, when you start really opening the map up, this is how quickly Papyrus runs. Like, it's not quick. So it's run it, turn it on, let it build the map. Once the map is up, it's smooth because it won't need to go through all this kind of processing to load the map up itself. And then all that's happening in the future is you're just exploring one single place. That's very easy to add on to the map over time because technically we're putting the whole map on here. We're just Fog of War is blocking the ones and it's easy to turn them on. So just for premise of how the ship works, you get into the ship when it's landed, turn the map on, run over to your pilot seat, take off. And then when you're sitting there and you're piloting and doing some stuff, by the time this thing loads in a few minutes, which it looks like it just finished up, you're done. You don't need to load up anymore. When you leave, and then there we go, and then this is the system we have in there to fix when this prototype map decides to put these modules and the markers in the wrong spots. You can see it fixing itself over time. Yeah, so it's just a cool thing to do on here, but now you can see the map all the time. And as you can see also, as Xyla is moving over the markers, we change scan the plot course. Now, if you attempt to plot course right now, it's going to tell you that is impossible because you're currently landed, or it should. Yep. So now you get messages all throughout the process for plotting a course. Now, when we get into space, which we'll do in a second here, we will go through and actually do a course plot and show you kind of how it works. Now, just be aware, pathfinding, what we're using to kind of figure out the paths through the network itself, takes some time. If it's close in the network, it's very quick. You know, if you're going from Jemison to Kurtz, it's like instantaneous. If you're going Jemison and you're hopping 2, 3, 4, it's pretty quick. But if you pick like the two opposite sides of the map, it has to figure out the path to get there, and it has to exhaust everything to get there. It could take you 2, 3 minutes. So just be aware, you know, these are just limitations for us being unable to build this in the engine and make it super quick. We're always limited by how quick Papyrus runs. Papyrus runs exceptionally slow in terms of how it can process. So these are longer moving actions you're taking that you would just turn on. You know, I want to plot a course from, you know, Jemison to Aquila, where they're decently far. So I plot the course, and then I go off and do something for a little bit. And then the computer will eventually figure the whole thing out, update this map in a little while, and notify you when it completes. These are not instantaneous actions that are taken with the way that we have to process all this stuff. So obviously plot course isn't doing anything. So now if you're able to take off, we can actually do a course plot and then see how it builds the plot. Questions in here. As an ultra-wide monitor user, would changes like with UI HUD that you make be supported? Yeah, they're already supported. So there's two different files for kind of like HD and ultra-wide for pretty much all the different interface stuff. So any changes we're making are going to be working on any kind of resolution. And we have... I noticed on the in-game map the gate networks were still in black undiscovered. Shouldn't they swap to white? Oh, Jesus. So you can tell which don't leave to the settled systems. Well, undiscovered means you physically haven't been there in terms of the way the engine recognizes it. If we do that, it actually hurts your game. You gain experience and stuff like challenges depend on it and a few other things by discovering places. Like if you simply go through the network and explore, you get a sizable amount of experience just by arriving in new orbits by default. That's a vanilla feature. And challenges depend on it, and some other stuff within the game depends on it. If we force discover, you're losing those benefits. So that's entirely have you physically driven a ship into that orbit. It's got nothing to do with whether or not it connects to a system or anything like that at all. It has to be a name-based type of thing. We really don't have a way yet to convey that information. We're digging into the HUD. We have some pathways, but currently speaking, the little loopholes, like Sim Settlements use this a lot in Fallout 4. There was a loophole that allowed Kingath to send data into Sim Settlements through the HUD, and it was an indirect way through the system itself. That loophole exists in Starfield, but does not work while you're piloting a ship, which is a big problem with everything we're doing in StarSim. So if we can find a loophole that also works while piloting, we're going to use it. If not, it drastically limits our ability to change the HUD for anything that was already in the game before. All of the information we can convey, which is why we do everything on this mapping table, is something that we can build on our side without any limitations. That's why, while these other things we're making, I think are going to help a lot of folks, you really got to come into StarSim using the network map almost exclusively. We're not built around the galaxy map, and we're not built around the star system map, because those are kind of hard locked to the way the engine functions, and we have limited ways to change them. If you're using the network map and you're doing a lot of your travel strictly by the pilot seat, cruise mode to get to places and stuff like that, the maps are pretty much irrelevant. You would use Galaxy Map, I would guess, for grav jumps. Once autopilot comes about, I would say the Galaxy map and the Star System map are completely useless. There's no need to use them at all, because now you can just basically go autopilot, jump me this location, and it jumps you right to that spot itself. At least if you need to go to a different system. In a system, I would just use cruise mode, and there should be no need to really even use grab jumps at all, through the old method, basically. So yeah, you're in space now, right, Zyla?
Yeah.
So pick a spot you want to go to. So you should be over Aquila. So try somewhere, not super close from Aquila, if you can identify it on the map, but somewhere, a little farther off. And it should allow you to go through, just not directly on it. So pick a place you want to go to, and then the plot core system will go and show you your route you need to take to get there.
It's cold though.
All right, a little bit further than that. It's only 2 spots away. Maybe go, I don't know, Samadhi or Altair to the west. And down a little bit. Yeah, try that one. That's a good size, or that one. It's a decent direction. I don't want to do this and then have to wait 3 minutes for the plot to complete. Is it not doing anything?
I'm not sure.
I think
pressed it.
I think you're still catching up. I just saw the thing pop up. You might be getting hit pretty hard on Papyrus right now. Try it again. It should have an objective pop up on the top left, like you did when you were landed. But I think you're just too much stuff's happening right now because you just had the marker pop up. Yeah, it might be this is kind of why we're not quite ready for 1.09 till later on today. I might have to change the way we're doing that self-healing, because it basically has to keep looping through the entire map over and over and over and over again.
Nope, there we
and
go.
it's expensive. Oh, finally?
Yeah.
There you go. All right, so we let this run a little bit here. It basically will go through and figure out the entire route to get you to whatever one you selected. And then you're going to see it actually build the path all the way to that spot, right on the map. And while we're letting this thing run, we have, I believe I saw that when you make your map selection, that this is a permanent decision. Does it apply after going through the Unity, or do you have to make another decision? Well, when you start New Game Plus through the Unity, it is a new game. In terms of what they're doing, it's wiped everything out from the previous game completely. They just move over a little bit of data, and they're doing some tricks. So yeah, you're completely reinitializing StarSim or everything in the entire game when you go through the Unity. That's by default. So you can then get the option when you go through the Unity to change it if you want to have a more, I don't know, different experience. Like maybe you did this quite a bit and you kind of have an idea now where a lot of things are on the map, so you feel a little more comfortable going the route of Fog of War. That would probably be a good opportunity at that point. So yeah, every Unity, you're making that option again. Fine waiting for this to finish. You probably can fly around a little bit. Like you don't need to sit there and wait if it's trying to figure out that route. You'll get notified when it's finished. And part of what I'm doing right now is why I want to get a little more work in here is have that course plotting, please wait, pop up every like 15, 20 seconds as it's trying to figure this out, so you're not sitting there going, did this break? Did it stop working? Yeah. So it's we're in quality of life stage right now for this patch. We need to get a little more stuff in before we're comfortable with where it's taking us right now. But yeah, you can just travel about. Do whatever inside here. We got anything interesting going on in Aquila? Probably not. Yep, security ship flying about, doing whatever. Patrol. Freighter. Yep, same old. Boring. Interior. Location. Doesn't have a lot of action going on.
Built military ship stuff.
Oh. I think it's done.
How did it pop up?
Well, no. Did you see the quest target just popped up?
There we go. Post plotted updating map.
Yep. All right, so go back to your map real quick. It actually looks pretty cool when this is happening right on the map itself, so, we just kind of missed the building of that, but you should now see that plot visually on the map. Yep. So it's showing you right now on the map, this is the route that you've got to take. They're kind of, it's another thing I'm trying to fix right now. They're out of whack a little bit. Wow, what did they do? That's a new one. The lines are good though. So obviously you picked, what did you do? Altair 1 or Altair 2?
Yeah, Altair 1.
Gotcha. So yeah, you see that the lines are overlaid over each of them, and then I don't know why it's decided to put those things all kind of wonky like that. That's a new one. But you see the lines that'll now direct you here. But more importantly, you have this as a visual tool once I fix these quirks. And then if you go back into your ship and pilot, you're going to see the marker that will show you what gate you need to fly through based on the course you just plotted. And it'll update as you're going through each of these gates in real time. Papyrus real time.
Your ship just crashed into us.
What's that?
A ship just crashed into us.
Yeah, that's pretty standard for them. Yeah, so I saw at one of the gates you had a marker thing on, telling you to go through there.
Might be a bit disoriented. Oh, there we go.
Yep. Now, I'm going to go through and rename this because it's not a quest target anymore. That was the old system that it's just not reliable. We already cut it. It's not doing what it's doing. I think this works out better, right? Like, you're given a quest. The quest says, I need you to go to wherever. Now, as long as you've explored a bit, you kind of know where that system's at. So there you go, cool. It's telling me to go to Aquila. I know that's in the Cheyenne system. I'm currently in Jemison. So I'll go into my map, I'll go through and I'll pick Cheyenne. It'll build the route I need to take to get there. And then I have specifically right here exactly the gates I need to fly through from the plot that the course I just did. So I think these changes we did here, we forgot to even look at the gates designs, or the names.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, go do a quick ship scan. All right, so, right, because we named those one time during initialization. Cool. It won't show up on here because the gates are the names are snapped on the gates when you first start the game up. I'm going to put a report in right now and do that real quick. A mechanism when you're using an existing save to rename the gates. That'll take a little bit, like a minute or two. One moment. So, if this was a new game, you'd be fine. And I just made the report for me to fix that in a minute. What you'd be seeing in here normally is going to be East Gate, North Gate, West Gate, whatever. And that direction aligns to the network map. So if you're looking at the network map and you're in wherever you are right now, Myatha, whatever it is, so you go on the network map and you identify where you are. So actually, real quick, Silo. So what do you see for the gates here? We have Aquila, Myatha. I think I saw a gate for Skink. There's Myatha. Keep going, because it'll be on the
Skink currently.
Trident Star Yard. Okay, that makes sense. It should be only 3. It should be west, east, and south. So get out of your pilot seat real quick and just validate on the map that you see only left, right, and down for the lines coming out of Skink. Just to make this clear. And then when the naming on here should obviously make it even more clear. I just need to put the fix in. But we should absolutely, Skink should only be 3 lines coming out of it. Left, right, and down. No, you should have a north gate.
There we go.
What are you in? Yeah, there you go. Yeah, so Skink's got 1 to the east, the Trident, 1 to the west to Myatha, and 1 to the south for Aquila. So that's how you read this map. You read the map and you go, I see the lines coming out of it. That tells me there's going to be a gate to the left, west, right, east, or down south. Then when you go into the orbit itself, the gates will specifically say west, south, east. And that's how you can look at this map and use it as a visual tool and understand kind of the direction you're going. So a lot of the confusion right now, a lot of folks are having, is because we don't have the directions within space. So when we're going back to the beginning, here, go to Crete real quick. And
Physically.
well, no, on the map. I'm sorry. Go to highlight Crete on the map.
Oh, Crete.
Keep going up, right there. All right, and then highlight Jemison. Right there. So when we talk about hops are a jump through the gates into the next one. So when I'm looking at my positioning on the grid for everything, Jemison is where it is, and then if you go slowly 7 slots in the grid to the right from Jemison. So Karts, Mercury, Altair, Sumati, Nera, Ansalon, Polvo, then go up 1. Nope, that's 8. No, Crete. So that's where when you're reading the map, you can say, okay, I see where I'm at, and I'm trying to get to to Jemison. I recognize that regardless if it showed anything right now, because in a Fog of War game, you're going to have Vectera, Crete, Jemison, and then the other 3 cities that are on here, and nothing else on the screen. And this is how you read the map. It's a 2D grid, literally. It's like a spreadsheet. It is built from a spreadsheet. So I start in Crete, and I need to get to Jemison. So when I'm looking at this map, and the grids are those 4 out little diamond things, right? That's the grid spot. The markers in the middle of that grid, whatever that coordinate is. So I know that from Crete, for me to get to Jemison, I have to go south, down 1, and west, left 7. Now, when the directional names are in the gates, it becomes a lot easier. I have to go south gate and then west gates until I get to Jemison. It's not a perfect science because this is not a spreadsheet where all the grids are interconnected directly to each other. So, Styla, if you can right now from Crete, go that route. So we know we have to go south 1 and west until you can't go west anymore. Polvo, Ansalon, Nera, Sumati, Altair. Now I'm stuck. There's no gate based on the lines west. I have to detour and find another path to get over there. So from Altair, I would go south to Altair 2. Now I see a west gate. I go, cool. All right, I'm going to continue west because that was what I was trying to do before. So we go west into the den. Oh, I have a north gate. Cool, I can get back to the route I was trying to take, and now I'm in Mercury, and now I see, cool, I have west gates again. I continue on west to Kurtz, up another west gate. I'm here. That's the basic premise, and it's a reason why we have the 4 hubs in there, because most quests send you to the 4 hubs, and that's kind of how you read the map. It's a maze, kind of, yes. The maze design isn't like to trip people up. It's because of content and sort of things that we're doing in here. You need to have sort of exploration when you're going through stuff. We need to put certain orbits in certain places so the economy works. We don't want ships crashing into asteroids all the time, things like that. But that's the premise behind what you have here. So you can feasibly, with the plot course option now especially, and you're willing to just explore a little bit on your own without direction from a quest, you can open up systems pretty quickly. And then once you have the systems open up, it's actually a lot easier to move around here. And then once you get enough of these gates, you can use plot course and say, if this was Fog of War still, the plot course mechanism still functions 100%. You can go Crete to Jemison, even though you don't see all the stuff between it, it will still plot course. The equivalent from a lure standpoint is you're sending a signal through the gates. They're just wormholes. There's no reason why data can't go through them just as much as a ship. So the mechanism to figure the path out is getting sent through, figuring out how to get to the location you do know, which was Jemison, and then it says this is the path you got to take, without having all the stuff between it explored. So just so things can make a little more sense as to what we're doing, that's basically our approach to the whole thing. And now you have all these options we're doing right now where you're able to go through and say, I just want to show more of the map. Regardless of the new features, I'd like to see more of the map. just because it's easier for me to play. Either going full map or going like Xyla did here, Settled Systems, is personal preference. You will always have plot cores. And then in this case, you're not seeing any of the undiscovered, unclaimed territory, which gives you still the opportunity to open more of the Fog of War up in places outside of this territory right here. So hopefully this makes a little more sense in terms of what our vision was originally, and we just needed a little bit more tools to make it clearer, and sort of what these tools are now allowing you to do. And then, obviously, I'm still working through the last bit of weird things happening right now. So yeah, these are the main things right now. Plot course, directions on the gates, system gates will be clearly presented in the game. Orbits that have system gates will be clearly represented in the game, and then you basically pick how much of the map you'd like to show. I think those are the core ones that, with those features in, most of the confusion folks are running into should be gone now. And then the rest of it is really just understanding the network is the core way to travel. Grav jumping is sort of a reward you give yourself, like it was in previous Bethesda games, to speed things up. When I was doing all the testing for Crimson Fleet, I was not taking the network to get to the key every single time. I did that trek one time, and then I grav jumped to the key every single time through the quest line itself. So it's the same way when I'm playing Fallout 4 and Skyrim. I'll trek once, and then I fast travel every single time past that point. That's kind of what we have here. So yeah, so I would say if you want to continue, if you want, well, try that route if you like, or we can go back to doing more of the storyline. It's your call. And I'll keep answering some stuff in the chat here. What's that?
Probably continue it.
Yeah.
To show the route.
Yeah. All set. Question here: can you affect which faction controls a star system? That's a tough one. So some of it's hard-coded in terms of the systems that have to be a certain faction-controlled area. We're sort of layering on, which is the icons you see on the network map itself. We're saying that these are all controlled by a certain faction. Yeah, that's telling you, it's basically our equivalent of the quest objective system. So it's telling you exactly what gate you have to fly through from the course you just plotted, 100%. And then as Xyla flies through the next orbit, it immediately will update that marker to point to the next gate you have to go to along that plot. So really, I mean, we went through the steps here as one of the first updates we did for 1.09 to add all the gates directly into the objective system, and that's going to still be in there for the tutorial quest. But you don't even really need that anymore, because you always will see Jemison in the current version of the game. So theoretically, all you need to do now, and we are expressing that currently in the tutorial, is just plot a course to Jemison, and then you'll see this all the way down the path directly to Jemison. And what's nice about this system is now we have a clear way to use these markers. This already existed, and I'm sure folks may have seen this once in a while, but sounds good. Heads up to it. If an anomaly is present in the same vicinity of the gate, sometimes the icon will also be highlighted for the anomaly and disappeared from the gate, which can lead to confusion. That was the old system. That's been gutted. That whole system's gone. There was issues with that old system. We were trying to do that whole dynamic quest stuff. It's not the same thing anymore. That icon you're seeing, that little circle thing, that's just a default behavior when you're in space, where an activator or a trigger is floating in space itself. You can have multiple of those throughout an entire orbit. The reason there was a lot of weird stuff happening in 1.08, the original launch build, is that we were trying to do all of that actual quest targeting stuff. This is not a quest target. I just need to rename this when we finally get this patch done. This is literally now a course plotted gate, where it's saying you go through this gate here. It should not be flipping around, because the reason it was flipping around is because it was trying to figure out which gate to send you to get you to the quest target. but that system we were using is not reliable. Bethesda's not consistent in how they use that because it wasn't necessary in all the quests. And so this will be consistent when this shows up, even if an anomaly is in the same orbit, which we've passed a few of them so far, and I've seen 2 showing up. But yeah, faction-controlled star systems, a lot of those are basically hard-coded into the data, and it's not something you can easily change. Like the bounties depend on it, the faction control icons on a certain system. So we'll look into it. Like when we get into Balance of Power, which is the war module, we want even the player to take over places. Now we can easily have it where, thematically, UC's invading Freestar, which is what the Gate Network does really well, right? Their fleet comes in through Altair into Samadhi as the first place they arrive at. They wipe all military ships out. They're not blowing everything up. They're not destroying the economy and corporations. They're just taking out military security forces. When they see that they're gone, they move on to the next one and the next one and the next one. And then once they take Aquila, then they control Freestar until Freestar's military can build up enough force to push them out of it, or the relations between the two of them improves enough. If we're able to go through and change things, but there's so many quests. Starfield is heavily hard-coded in a lot of areas that if you make those changes, you break the entire game. For instance, the Frontier is directly hard-coded into almost every single quest, whether you're piloting it or not, which means you can't really do a lot of changes at the Frontier other than maybe change its looks a little bit because of how much they have it hooked directly into quests. So we've found over the years with space, you got to be very careful what you're doing in a lot of these systems, or it'll cause major problems. This is doing here. That's interesting. Maybe it is down damage, what you brought up before, that they are having situations where it only shows one of those in an orbit at a time. So if you scan that space anomaly, does it show the marker then that we placed in the other spot? Otherwise, I'm going to have to kind of rethink that. That's the only other thing we can kind of put in an orbit. There's only so many things you can put in here that the HUD will pick up.
Isn't it? So you can check it.
Right. So I flipped over to well, actually, we found one that has hollow asteroid fields. Gotcha. Okay. I'm putting the report in for that, so I got to rethink that. So that's going to complicate things quite a bit.
Oh.
Yeah.
It's updated.
Oh. Weird. Yeah. The engine works in mysterious ways. Such a pain. I'm going to dig into it and see. Maybe it's just something that takes a little longer for it to actually show up. Can you check real quick, Zyla? Do you see that quest target and the one that you just had for the anomaly? Are they both on the HUD?
Yeah.
Okay. So that could have just been a papyrus thing. Because I was scared for a moment there that it wasn't going to show the other one. There's nothing that I've seen in the engine that should stop multiple of those being in the same orbit, in theory. Let's see. I'm trying to get caught up on here. Feature how will the gates of the player. Yeah, so you're seeing that right now. It's that circle, spinning circle, will act as the quest objectives. And then we just talked about the bug you were seeing before, but I think that was really something that was broken in the quest target system we had before.
That was a fast
player
one.
plots. What's that?
The quest
yeah.
showed up very quickly this time.
Yep.
Oh, I guess it shows up if you scan But not if you're close. I think it shows only when you're close enough outside of the scan.
Yeah,
If
there's weird
multiple.
perception issues with the way the ship picks things up as well that could interfere with those. If a player plots a course and is not in the vicinity of the gate, let's say they're in deep space, will that marker still show up leading the player to the location of the gate? I ask because there can be multiple gate networks in the same system. So you will not... You have to plot a course directly in the network, or the system just doesn't let you. You can fly out of the plot, and it won't show anything. Like, it gets way too complicated if we're trying to, like, redo this as you leave the course. So you will only get guidance when you're in the course itself. So if you decide to turn a course on and then fly out of the course and go somewhere else for a little while and come back, you're not going to see it directing you back into the course. You'll be able to do that through the network map. You can look at the network map and say, I'm over... Oh, you made it. There we go. That worked. If you can do me a favor real quick here, because I'm still testing this out here. So can you get out of the pilot seat and see, did it clean up the stuff on the map? Oh man, the magnetic ripple like cascades into the ship as
Yeah,
well.
seems
That's
like
pretty
it.
cool. Perfect. Now, the bug that we were seeing here that I hopefully fixed, try to plot a course now to somewhere else from Altair 1.
I guess get back to Kilo.
Go somewhere closer so that we can get this done quicker if you can, because it takes a bit. Like, dude, like 2 over, yeah. Nothing?
Activity.
I think it's what Sarah was saying. There's something like it gets stuck after that plot. I'm probably not setting up bool correctly. I'm going to put a report in for that. That's the one thing I had to go and fix from what Sarah was saying, is that it like won't rearm itself to let you do another plot. So cool. I'll get that fixed. Can't.
Oh, no, it started. Guess it's just a bit slow.
Let's see. Is that grid supposed to pop up when the navigation table and the Starborn ship we get in? Yeah, it works in there too. A lot of the things, so just be aware, a lot of the things we're seeing right now is that we're doing so much stuff when you first start up the game itself. You have simulations, initialization runs a few hours. You can play the whole time, but we're pushing a lot of stuff through Papyrus. And also, we're slowing StarSim down based on what you have running in the background. And so, if you got a bunch of mods in the load order and they're doing stuff, and then Starfield's doing its own stuff, we take the hit on performance in StarSim, because if we don't do that, then what you end up with is instability in the entire game. So like when we didn't have these safeguards on with just how much we're doing, you end up with stack dumps, which technical term, but if that happens, you basically have broken your game almost permanently. The scripts that Starfield needs for storylines aren't running correctly, so this is where you'll see things where you'll do stuff and there's just a long pause, or you hit a gate and then it takes like 5 seconds before the trigger fires off. This is intentional. We're trying to make 70,000 lines of code, a full game, work in a scripting language that's not built for that entire purpose, and doing some crazy stuff to keep these things going. Once you get past that initial simulation and that 1 to 3 hours later, and especially once most of the ships have kind of asked for their paths, we save all the paths in the gate network. So with Xyla doing that path from Aquila to Altair 1, that path, both directions, was just saved. Every ship now that needs to go from Aquila to Altair 1 is not doing pathfinding. It just goes and says the path is already here. It's an instantaneous read. It does what it needs to do, drastically reducing what it needs to actually perform and do everything it needs to accomplish. So you will see performance improve the longer you're playing StarSim, where there's less computation need to happen for the simulation to do what it needs to do. I would say in most cases when we're doing testing, once you get to that 30, 40, 50 hours in, it runs very smooth most of the time. Where you'll typically see problems is if something major is happening in another orbit, especially one you're not in. It has to still do all those calculations for like ship combat between two fleets, and it slows down because it needs to get that completed before it can do the next thing in the stack for what the across all Papyrus. Papyrus does exactly one thing at any given time, and it just puts everything into a stack and works its way down. So if it's doing calculations of combat, it needs to complete that 100% before it gets to the next thing it can do across the entire game. All mods, Starfield, and us.
I don't know if it's broke with playing
I-
again since.
Yeah. It's Sarah was finding it was getting stuck. I'm just putting the report in, and I'll look into it and see.
Do we want to go back to Aquila then and finish the quest?
Yeah, knock the quest out, and then we'll just do a little bit of exploration and see what we find. I'm trying to keep the stream spoiler free for really cool exploration stuff. Let you guys all find it. So we'll just do a little bit of like basic exploration, and then we'll continue a storyline.
It's insulin. Insulin's further south, isn't it? Oh, it updated the map. I guess we can check after this. If I actually processed it.
Yeah, I think it's just taking some time. Done damage. Yeah, that spinning circle thing is weird. Sometimes it shows up, sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah, it went through.
Okay.
It might just take a
Yeah.
bit.
Yeah, it might just be taking longer to run in the background. I'm going to still dig into it. I can still make a few tweaks,
Yeah.
but that's good. Taking forever. Sometimes if I had to suggest, I'd suggest hiding the marker for the anomalies for now because the gate system and clarity on that is influential. That whole anomaly system was directly requested by Bethesda to have space traits. We can't cut that or hide it. The anomalies are basically the equivalent of the planet traits to give you something to scan and kind of identify over time and add to the database. So they wanted that layer.
Should probably upgrade the graph drive on this.
Well, if you hide the icon, then you can't scan it to do that whole mechanism. The original version of the system, we would go through and once you scanned it, the icon would be gone. But then I think then you have no idea what you actually scanned. Like the database pops up, and there's a benefit to having the name of the anomaly in there. We're going to be digging into that quite a bit over time, where it's like, you know, a mission says, I don't know, I'm just trying to think of, you know, we need you to explore a few magnetic ripple orbits for whatever reason. So you're going around there scanning anomalies until you identify a magnetic ripple, and then once you find it, you're giving them information for where it needs to be, or reasons. I'm spitballing right now. Or, you know, I was traveling around and got attacked by, I don't know, spacers, and I bailed from my ship, and my ship is still sitting there in a, I don't know, hollow asteroid field or something. So those, understanding the anomaly is going to be important for future missions, future content, things like that. And getting them gives you quite a bit of XP. Is there a way to clear a course, turn off the projection, then turn it back on? You can just click the same course you did, the destination, and it cancels that course out. Or you can redirect a course and it'll go through and clear it and build a new one. Shutting it on and off will do it as well, but then you're going through the load process, which takes a bit.
You have a nice voice.
Thank you.
So I have you doing all the talking.
Come on, Zyla, you can talk too.
Can I go straight to... I guess so. Interesting.
That's not right.
As wonderful as living worlds are, look out for predators.
Well, mines or anything.
Good fight here. We were doing this a while ago. You also have lung damage.
Getting low on shotgun ammo.
Never mess with a code.
The watch
bit
doesn't
like-
sound very happy.
No. You gave yourself lung damage a little bit ago, so yeah. Get through a little code work here while we're doing this. Keeping an eye on the screen. Always that last one. You can't find it, or it bugged itself and fell out of the world. Or you're stuck in something.
That's a turret.
Everything I've dealt with, smugglers, just all you.
I missed this one here. By the way, if anyone interested in the mod SETI, ship lights is very useful for SpaceSim with the new way space is displayed, especially for navigating hollow asteroids. Yeah, it's required. We were digging into that for well over a year, and we attempted to kind of rebuild there's already lights on the ships, but they're so faint, and the way the lighting works in space, it basically is kind of forcing you to go and do stars, and they kind of block out all the rest of the light. But SETI 100% figured it all out, and we need stuff like that in here. You can't get through the hollow asteroids if you find one of those asteroid fields without it, because you can't see anything. And we've stuck things into those asteroids. Now, long term, once you guys find the planetoid, which is amazing, and we're going to be doing that in a few other places, we would like to do a hollow planetoid, and that thing is monstrous. If you've seen some of the trailers where we're flying past it, I mean, it's like a mini moon. And so what I would like to see is, have tunnels and large caverns inside of an asteroid that you're flying through, and you can find different things. You can mine objects in there for ores and stuff like that, derelict ships, things like that. So we need lights, because if you try to go into those, turns out to be a Death Star. Yeah, that could happen. You need the headlights. Right now, basically, you've got to, if you're trying to go into those hollow asteroids, you got to have the star kind of positioned just right, that its light is kind of going in there to see certain things. You go deeper into the bigger versions of it, it's pitch black. So that's a big one. I would slate it right now if we can figure it out quickly in the next patch we're doing this week, once we get this one done. Basically, once we iron out the problems in this one, the next patch is dynamic ship balancing, so that any ship part creation you're using, the parts will work with the balancing we did in StarSim automatically. So there's no need for patches. Put the parts on that you like to make your ship look the way you want, and then we will dynamically balance it into the numbers that we need, while trying our best to keep the nuances of the different parts. But from a cosmetic standpoint, the parts will just work, and you will have ships that actually function. And I think the added benefit of this is that that'll apply to every ship that you're piloting. So if you're using a custom ship provided by anybody else, this will balance that ship up to what it needs to be. And then we fix the problems in this version for the invisible parts on certain custom ships. So the next patch, I think, if we get more feedback, obviously we'll continue this kind of iteration process here. But once we kind of iron out these two things and then get a little more mod compatibility in as much as we can, I think the foundation of Beyond Space is pretty set. We have some stuff we're going to investigate, like with somebody had an idea of greatly expanding the mission boards to pull from what we have right now. So like a transport mission would allow you to transport goods to any of our stations as an option. So I hope you still have your cutter.
Oh, what's Sam doing?
Hello? Trying to get shot. So it'll utilize the stations right now where you're acting more as a courier, and you can already get the stuff that's produced by our stations, which is quite a bit, is already in those transport missions you can get on the mission board. So you kind of have that economy access a bit as it is now, and I'd like to just expand that a little bit so that possible targets where you're taking that stuff to could include our stations. Now, whether or not we can get this so that what you're bringing to a certain station aligns to what the station does, that's tougher. But at least it'll utilize our stations where they're just requesting stuff. Maybe they need those things even if they're not a factor that makes them for another reason. So that's on the agenda. What's we got on here? There's a few other bugs that were brought up on the server, which, be aware, anybody runs into anything when they're playing this, you can directly make bug report feedback ideas. There's a command on each of those channels to directly build a bug report. You'll see everything we're doing when we're working on it, and anything we're doing communicating goes back and forth in our system. We'll definitely reach out in the server. If we're starting to expand the team,
think that's far enough.
I think we can start here first.
Hate to put
and
a
then,
hole in the head of Achilles'
go from there.
own prodigal son. At least not before we've had a word.
You must be Shaw.
Narrative-wise, we're not really digging into any projects yet. We have a proof of concept, actually 2 proof of concepts for story-driven. Highest priority, obviously, is Mining Conglomerate, to build the Argo story that's been sitting, the script's been sitting there forever.
Grab something from that weird cave.
That, and then we have another concept that we've already kind of fleshed out a bit of. Both of them will now hook into StarSim,
Let's
so
talk about what all that's worth.
it'll be interesting when we start doing that.
Your lives, your credits. One or the other, really.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. We're at ground zero right
really?
now. This
Let's
is
hear it.
bare bones. For folks that were kind of like, there's not a lot of things necessarily in StarSim.
Does sound nice.
What we had to accomplish here to get this to work, that was the foundation. Everything else we're building from here forward, no question we can do it now, because the hard part's already done. So layering onto this anything is now completely doable.
Someone who can keep their mouth shut.
It's performant enough, as much as we're able to on Papyrus. You're gonna get your quirks here and there, but it generally works as quickly as we can right now. We know the simulation works. We know they're all doing the stuff that they need to be doing.
Get the hell out of
So
here before I change my mind.
it's when we start putting the rest of the modules in, and you have that selection in front of you, and it's not even just our modules either, right? Like, it's anybody can build off of StarSim's foundation. They can build their own modules, adding in whatever they like. They paid or otherwise, because that's all we're going to be doing. Everything we're doing has to be indirect. So I would like to see folks go through and just build whatever they think needs to be on StarSim as their own modules and hook right into it as their own vision. And then over time, between what we're building for StarSim in these individual modules, what everybody else is, now you can sit there and look at it and say, all right, this is what I'd like to see in space. I pick out Beyond Space, and IM Space makes a module that does something with the ship stealth, makes it freaking amazing. You add that in there because you love stealth. And then maybe there's a module that we build down the road that expands on, I don't know, pirates and stuff, or this crazy amount of contraband stuff. You just pick and choose. And then, boom, there's your space. We have our definitive experience, which is all of them, that we feel that goes way towards the space simulation aspect, because our end goal as a studio is we want Starfield plus StarSim to be better than all the space sims that exist right now. I don't think we don't stop development until they're discussing StarSim next to X4 Foundations, Elite Dangerous, Star Citizen, and No Man's Sky. If that's not happening, we need more work somewhere to get us to that point. And I expect this to be in this for a very long time. Well, I think what you're looking at right now, with the more to it, it's difficult, right? You know, so you come into any creation and you're looking for what it's directly offering, and you want the explosions and the story. Oh, I love when the ships do that every time when you come back from. It's so weird. I know why the engine does that every time. the explosions and the stuff like that. Like when you're looking at Watchtower, it's like explosions and the storyline and the mechs and the drop ships and all this stuff, and it's right in your face. But StarSim does things subtly, right? It rebuilt the flow of the entire game. It's not necessarily the stuff that's happening internally to StarSim that is the content per se. The simulation absolutely impacts it. It's about the fact that when you're playing Starfield now from the beginning and you're utilizing the gates, how it affects the entire flow of the game itself. And I think that's worth more across the board for every other creations involved with this. And in all of our tests, the narrative just feels better, I think. I think you let the narrative breathe, and I know a lot of folks have a lot of critiques for Bethesda's writing, right? But it's the same writers over the course of multiple games, and these complaints really haven't existed as much in Fallout and Skyrim, and I really do think the reason why is because if you took Skyrim and Fallout 4 and you got rid of the ability for you to walk from each of the places and just fast traveled everywhere you went, the opinion of those games would be completely different. It's the travel that makes those games shine. And it's the fact that the storyline is spread out so that if you got a point of the story and you were like, this is weird, like I don't like how the writing was or how it was presented, but then you leave a place and you run into this amazing atmospheric storytelling that Bethesda's great at. Now that's fresh on your mind, and you forgot about the part you didn't really like that much, and then they get the spots in their main storylines that actually are very interesting. It's recency. It's how our brains work. And so that they're really good at world building, and they're really good at telling a story when you arrive in an orbit, or Fallout 4 and Skyrim, a place, a point of interest. And this is the core of what happened at the Gate Network. When you're playing Starfield now and you're using the network instead of just jumping right to places and you're getting sidetracked, and it's not just getting sidetracked by what we did, it's getting sidetracked by what Bethesda did. When we cataloged the entire game building StarSim, I personally missed 50% of the handcrafted content that Bethesda made. And this is situations like on some obscure system in some obscure planet, you would have had to pick that location and check the point of interest on that planet to find this really cool thing that Bethesda built that is only at that location. And so people are missing, by just doing the quest, a lot of stuff that Bethesda themselves built in space or on planets. That's not the case anymore. This network was built around their content. If you never leave the network, you just travel through the gates, and you're checking the stuff that's on the nearby planet, and you're checking the stuff in the space and looking around the nooks and crannies of each orbit, you will 100% all the content that Bethesda made. So that's where you have this subtle change in things, and then the simulation's just there to muck everything up. You're trying to explore, spacers try to blow you up, or they're attacking one of the orbits here and you can get pulled into a major battle and stuff like that. Or we've taken parts of the quest lines like Crimson Fleet and they now feel like actual fleet battles. It's not the Vigilance versus a handful of tiny ships that it should just basically sneeze on and destroy by itself. Now you go in there with the Vigilance and its escorts and destroyers and frigates fighting carriers, destroyers, and frigates, and it's a massive battle, stuff like that. It just makes everything feel better by just playing Starfield. Now, our task, I would say, over the next, say 4 to 6 months, is get this from enhancing Starfield to... Did the jump act weird just now?
Yeah.
What? Why'd you do that?
Well,
that's weird too, because this version you have right now. Oh, will that update on an existing save for all the trigger changes we made? We tightened the triggers around the gates so that it shouldn't pull you through. Okay. I think you're fine now.
yeah, just need to boost away from it.
Yeah. I don't know if that makes any changes in existing save to change how the triggers are, because they're like bases broken. and you can't really mess with triggers in space, or else it just damages them and they stop functioning forever. You can't disable the trigger, or it can't be enabled again. How does that relate to future compensation? I bought the hard part that doesn't do much. How does that fit into the release and pricing of the modules? How are you planning to balance the cost of what I've already bought versus what you plan to... So again, we feel strongly it's worth 1,000 credits. Now, is it going to be worth that to everybody? There's no world that I can go and define value for everybody else. But we feel strongly that what this has done for Starfield is worth 1,000 credits, without a doubt. And then there's layers and layers of stuff you can already do within it currently. So just from the value standpoint, why we feel where we are, I'm not going to sit there and say this is Starfield 2.0, but it takes on a lot of the complaints and critiques from people over 3 years consistently on why they've had issues with Starfield at a fundamental level, including we've made changes to certain quests in the game to make them smoother and run better. So it's not a hard part that doesn't do much. It's a hard part that doesn't present itself in such a way like you put side by side with Watchtower, where it's a straightforward narrative, an exceptionally good narrative with clear features that are right in your face. This is a simulation that's going to play itself differently for every person playing it, so we can't tell what things are going to happen as different things clash with each other as you're playing this through. There's mechanisms in here when you're looking at space features that Bethesda did in Starfield that are basically never utilized because there's no need to utilize them in space, that now have complete reason to be utilized. The ship scanner, for instance, you would never need to use that in vanilla Starfield because there's nothing in space to scan. So therefore, you're kind of left with a feature that's limited use. Ship stealth, used one time in a quest, never touched ever again, now has a lot of purpose within the game itself. You know, you can stealth through an orbit that has a lot of hostile enemies, and they don't detect you if you're outside of 10 kilometers, which is these are default features that just weren't expressed. Yeah, I don't think you've updated I'd have to check into that. The existing saves don't seem to be pulling in the changes we made for the triggers, because you'd be arriving outside of the trigger. We got rid of the old sphere. So I don't know if we're going to be able to get that into a patch like that in an existing save with the way that space works. Yeah, I'll investigate it, but that's a pain that's happening every so often. Somebody else said that they had that rubber banding happening a little bit as well. To answer the rest of your question on it, nothing I could see us doing in the future is remotely at 1,000 credits. So like we talked about before, when autopilot comes out, it's a very focused feature where this is many, many features. So it may only be 100 credits, 200 credits. If we're doing any kind of content in each of these, it's proportional to how much is unique within. And also, we have to build these completely indirect. You can get the autopilot StarSim module and not have Beyond Space. And we have to build it such that it works completely standalone without touching Beyond Space or depending on it. We cannot do dependencies in this program at all. So each of these had to be built now in such a way that they are completely standalone. We had to build an entire storyline in Gazillionaire for the economy module that is completely standalone, allowing you to run a corporation and do stations and stuff independent of having the gate network and everything we did in Beyond Space. So you could feasibly skip Beyond Space if something like that didn't really interest you and just get the economy module or the war module or whatever else happens down the road. But what we feel is the definitive experience is to get all of those if you find those features useful. Would you recommend turning off other kind of modes? No, I think a lot of times what we're going to be doing in the future is going to be kind of in parallel. Like the space economy, I can see scenarios, since we go back and forth between Sindarian, Karatic, Tennessee. And what we're looking for here is less us taking over everything and more we're providing a foundation. If there's great creations that are doing something really well, I'd rather just have them take over parts of our creation ourselves because they're doing those things better, they're more specialized. And then we're just providing that foundation where it all snaps in. So we're doing all the legwork right now to establish a space economy that actually is producing goods, freighting goods, doing stuff like that. And then space economy would come in, or space economy. For sure. I agree. It's hard to convey, right? There hasn't been something, I would say, like StarSim, except maybe Sim Settlements, right? Everything's very kind of fine-tuned on what's being built. A house, a weapon packs, a storyline that has a clear ending and stuff like that. So there's a direct ending. Space simulations, so if you're going with the big four, 8+ years of development, and there's no sign of them stopping. There's no point to keep doing sequels because there's so much you can do in space. So the idea here is we're going to be building this. I would like to do 8 hours, and we're doing more than 8 hours in this. 8 years, 10 years, 12 years. If there's a folks that want to keep doing StarSim because they like how we presented a space sim, Zyla, it's weird that this is happening so much for years. There's something going on. You might want to go and save and exit. I've not seen this rubber banding like this. I would save and exit and restart the game up because something's breaking in whatever has happened in your game. We haven't had rubber banding happening in like a year. And then we had that bug report recently where it happened a few times, but this happening over and over again, something's bugging out in your, yeah, I would get there and then save and then exit and reload if we can. And just flip back over to one of the others and just let it refresh. Something's acting weird. The physics on those triggers acts weird when we had that problem a while back. But at the end of the day, we're not looking nickel and dime. If we're doing a module, it needs to stand on its own merits, not require beyond space. But in all cases, when we're doing something, we're going to be designing it in such a way that it will work better with beyond space. You have more options in front of you when you have beyond space installed, acting as a core. Just the way the gate network expresses everything, the simulation expresses everything, provides an easier avenue to hook things in. So if I'm looking at just what we have for our current feature list, which is what we're working towards, the things we've seen work great in the other space sims, the things that we're looking to do that other space sims haven't done, the stuff that Starfield does exceptionally well in space that now will express itself better. We see a rapid development right now where we're trying to get these modules out to get that foundation compared to other space sims over ideally the next 4 to 6 months. And then once we get that foundation in, now it's an open book from that point forward. I can see very easily spending a year or even longer to build a storyline, and then kind of do what Export Foundations does, where every year or two they have a story DLC comes out, and that story incorporates a new, really fleshed out feature around the storyline, but it's primarily a narrative thing that is now integrated in the network. What I'd love to see is some hostile faction like what Terran Armada did and what Watchtower does, but they're actively using the network. So you see this proper threat while you're playing the game taking over network orbits, and you're kind of powerless to stop them because it's a massive fleet, but it's designed in such a way to create that concern for what you're doing as you're playing, but giving you a target to work towards long term, where you can build your own fleet because you want to take them out and push them back and win. And that's what the network, I believe, gives us, because you have that clear flow.
My grandpa lives in Aquila City, but we don't visit all that often. I don't think Dad...
Hey, how you doing? I've used several other mods like Mod Arsenal,
As
Mining
much as I
Conglomerate
love
are good
uncovered
supported. I think
questions,
Freelanes makes Arsenal redundant. I agree. Freelanes is X-Tech and stuff, and the legendary modifiers. We're going to do a pass on it, but it's a tough one now because it's been made completely redundant. And so we'll have to really try hard if we're going to go through and kind of differentiate it, but they did a pretty good job on that. So that's a tough one. And that's going to happen. We kind of expect that over time where, Bethesda launches something that will invalidate other creations and stuff. And, it is what it is sort of thing. And Mining Conglomerate, for instance, we've had a patch in QA for going on 3 months now to fix the mission board thing. So it's not from a lack of trying for the development side. They're just hammered with the sheer amount of content that folks are making right now. And the layoffs, I'm sure, didn't help matters at all. So, we are building, and we're trying to build stuff out kind of in parallel, getting Mining Conglomerate back to standards, and then in the future now, being able to get back into building the storyline. So I think I heard you say that a certain place, don't want to give away your content, that would be ripe for raids from spacers or pirates. I've hung out there a bunch hoping to catch something, but no luck. I realize it's a sim and might have happened without me being there, but is there something I can do to trigger it? So I know I've said before that territory boundaries are typically going to be hotspots for content because that is the entry points in the network for raiders to attack ships. But it's not a guarantee, right? So when a pirate is looking to raid, for instance, it's just trying to find a juicy target. If the freighter happens to be flying around in unclaimed space, they hit that, you won't even know the difference. But typically speaking, especially for spacers, I guess what would happen here for you to trigger it, so to speak, there's no button to push to trigger it, but it's understanding where they are, right? If you're exploring the network and you can pinpoint where the spacers are, their orbits on the periphery of the network, then you can basically say, hey, look, if they send a raid or they send they have patrols that go between their orbits, this is likely the path they're going to take if they decide to go here, which means that orbit at the territory border is likely to be hit. So it's hard to say because there's no guarantee it's going to take that path and go there, or maybe it's going to do that 20 hours into your playthrough. It's simulation basically will express itself out kind of how it does, and what we're looking at is basically, are we doing enough or not enough? Now the problem, this is where things get complicated. If we start ramping up the patrols and we ramp up the raids, then you start whittling away at the economy and it falls apart. So a lot of what we've done here right now is we see enough things happening when you're traveling around in space as it is, that we don't really want to do too much else from what we have right now. Now, this is where those modules in the future make a big difference, because then we have focused systems for folks that want to see more combat, which is kind of the direction I go. I'm not as interested in the economy. I want to go and do combat. I want to build a fleet, and I want to go and attack places and take them over. And so I would absolutely get economy. I'm not that interested in autopilot. Not that interested in building a corporation out. I am definitely interested in seeing massive wars happening between UC and Freestar, or House Faroon sending in their Serpent's Crusade and stuff like that and attacking both of them. That's the stuff that I want to see. And that would be triggered. Guaranteed. So if you're looking for battles and wars and picking your sides, and balance of power 100% locks you in.
But I got a little lost.
But if you're exploring, you're going to run into content. Guaranteed. Sarah has been attacked by spacer fleets countless times. Just traveling around the network and going into Crimson Fleet space, House Faroon space, if you're not friendly with them. If you're looking for combat, there's combat all over the place in the network right now.
There's more to come. Now,
and the battles are nuts. Likely, in most cases, it's not enough for you to go in there. Now, this is where Watchtower and Fleet Command can shine, because now that you build your fleet, the fleet has
But the data
massively
takes
more
a slow
purpose
ride along the sea
in
of
what we're
light.
doing with StarSim,
Years
where you're able
or
to go and
decades
get your
between
full
us
10
and the
ships,
fringes of space
armed to the
without a
teeth,
grav drive.
and then go into one of these orbits and try to see, do you have enough with a bunch of Corvettes equivalently to take out
You
a
won't
carrier
be the only
or take out
constellation out
something, stuff like that.
Andreja and Matteo are both following up on scans themselves. Matteo went out recently, but Andreja, it's been a while.
Are
Hate
events
to pull
designed
a
to happen
worried
multiple
old
times
man,
across a playthrough? Say I defend the den from a raid
I'm
or
an old
something when
man.
another significant event happened
I'm
within
worried.
it. Oh, yeah, yeah. There's no events. Like, this is not like a random event
She
encounter
should be
system
at
at
one
all.
of the two
This is
sites marked
literally
on your star
Crimson
map.
Fleet
She can
saying,
take care of
I want to
herself,
raid
but
somewhere.
we all
And they
need
go,
backup
where are we raiding today?
sometimes.
UC. Cool.
Anyway,
Where are we raiding at?
hopefully you'll
The
be
den.
catching
Cool.
Fortune's smile, and we'll
What are we
have some
sending to
more
raid?
artifacts to take a closer look.
A carrier
Happy hunting.
with its escort. Cool. Then you literally will have the carrier fly from the
Show
key
the words another time.
to the den. Will it make it there? Maybe, maybe not. Especially that route, because the den's like in the middle of between UC and Freestar. So from Crimson Fleet territory, it would have to fly through Phobos and all the UC space to get there. So likely what's going to happen there is that fleet makes it as far as the boundaries that are closest and then gets engaged by military in those orbits. Heading to Tal Ceti. Yeah, we're still surprised that it's holding together. Should be what? South 2? West. Yep. Nightland. I like the way you all integrated new ships in the StarSim, which is really cool. Yeah, we have, what is it right now? Eight military ship classes, 3 passenger, and 4 transport classes. So they still fundamentally are using A, B, C, M class like they have in the base game, but we have very fine-tuned purpose for what the ships are actively doing. So when you're buying ships, they fall into those categories, and they have a clear design approach and what they do. What are we looking for? The gate?
Yeah.
Oh, it's going to be
Oh,
there.
there we go.
There you go. Darn it, I would have rated out to you coming in my stream next time and let me know you were on, although I'm following now, so I should know. Will do. Also on our Discord, I think we have... So, Sila's been kind of scheduling out moving forward based around her current schedule, so we have the events in there as well to kind of let everybody know moving forward. Windy Lore. I haven't gotten to to leave my first gate yet, but when the simulation finished booting, a bunch of things started working that says, so you want to work in the first 2 hours, like saying what I looted from resources or minor UI stuff. Is that normal? Well, the simulation initialization is only the first 3 to 5 minutes for what the player interacts with. So there should be that first message saying that we're beginning the initialization for the core part of it. And you get that second message saying you're free to now do whatever you want. And then from there, everything should be working. Like when you get that second message, it's turned all the gates on correctly to let you fly through them.
Oh, I almost crashed into a capital ship.
I saw that. What I will say is if you're doing this new game versus new game plus, you've got to be in the Unity already before you install StarSim. If you're out of the Unity and then you try to go in, it gets a little quirky. New game should be fair game. It literally, the tutorial will directly point out one of the gates you have to go to get in the Crete. So it should work immediately when you go through the gate itself. New game plus, you end up in what was it? Beta Turnian. I just noticed you came out the backside of the gate just now. What orbit you in? Alceti? No.
Yeah.
Grissom.
Yeah, Grissom.
Okay. Bug report. Grissom. Well, it was you came through the gate from...
Jemison.
What? We've gone through that gate 175,000 times. I'm gonna chalk that up to something weird is happening. I can't even count the amount of times I've flown through that gate. Yeah, we still don't know the boundaries of compatibility for a lot of that stuff on whether it's going to work 100%. We've only really been able to test against, you're sitting in the Unity vanilla, and then you install it, and then you go right through the orb to get you to a new universe. We've had a lot of issues during testing for anything that did fast starts, alternate starts. We're finding as time progresses that some of them do work kinda sometimes, depending on the location they start at. We're just going to outright build, and that's something that will end up actually going back to APA. If you're still in here, there's still stuff we're going to be building into Beyond Space that works around the expression of what Beyond Space is. So we talked earlier about expanding the vanilla transport missions to utilize the stations, because they're already utilizing our products that are unique to StarSim anyway. The other one I would say 100% is alternate starts, right? So in Beyond Space, where this just makes sense based on this is where the simulation, the gate network is, you can pick an alternate start that is a scenario. And so you start up in Beyond Space, and you have the options of going through and starting up as trying to think of potential options. There was one of them that I really liked in other space sims where there's a bomb on your ship, and this is because you got loaned a bunch of money from a loan shark or a pirate clan or whatever for whatever reasons before the game started, and now they are demanding you pay that back with interest in X amount of time, or they blow up the bomb and you're dead. And so these little scenarios that you can pick to give a little flavor to your character, like the background stuff, that aligns to what StarSim's offering. And then we will extend that over time in each of the future modules, aligned to what the modules offer. So Gazillionaire may give you a start where, you're already a freighter, and you're running a really tiny freighter fleet that you can have a few of them out automating trade on their own, and then you're out there doing direct trades with stations. Not quite a corporation, it's just you and the ships that you have with your buddies that are going and piloting them. Maybe there's one where you're a small corporation where you already got yourself a headquarters and got some of the fundamentals there, and now you're able to go and start building a corporation out immediately if you like that kind of gameplay. It just opens up more pathways that can then be integrated directly in what we're doing in StarSim, aligned to each of the modules and what their core purpose is. We cleared that out. So we did that because we tried to stop the ship because of the way you hit the, especially for boosting, you hit the trigger, and then 2 seconds later, you've already traveled quite a bit. The wormhole thing plays out, but it's not worked the way we need it to. And especially if you're using any creations that are like trying to manage your ship power stuff, they get broken. So 1.09, which actually what Zava's playing on right now, has disabled that. Yeah, we're still hoping to get 1.09 out later on. So I think the stream will run for another 20 minutes, and then I gotta get through a few of the bugs we just saw on the stream. And then when Sarah wakes up, we gotta still put the gate objectives in for New Game Plus to point you from Beta Turnian up to Jemison. And then it's just kind of fine-tuning. I gotta rebuild the system we have right now for the self-healing of the map. It's too much. And then it slows down when you've been trying to do the plot core stuff. Go to mode. Oh,
Oh, did I just accidentally go for a game? And
you might have just killed your game. Yeah. Be interested to see what's going to happen here. Yeah, you see that? We can't fix that. Like, with the way that they did cruise mode. There's no events to detect when you start cruise mode.
kind of interesting that happens.
As long as it's not crashing, I think you're fine. In times that people have done that so far, it seems to heal. Kinda. We'll see that when you arrive, because this might be interesting. Well, you got the Oracle.
Oops.
In all cases, though, if it gets stuck, you just go through a gate, it kind of fixes itself. I was confused by something you said on Discord about 1.09. Is that coming out as a downloadable patch, or we have to update the original SpaceSim mod? You were talking about how the build numbers would lag or something. So, in an ideal world, we'd be able to push a patch for Bethesda QA and get it out in a reasonable time frame, but that has not been the case in the program to date. And especially after the layoffs, it is even more so a problem. So we can't, and this is coming from me, the game developer pre-Bethesda's program, right? You had the leeway to push a patch out on Steam instantaneously, and you need to do that. I can't wait 3 months to get 1.09 out to folks.
To delete some
So-
save files.
Yeah, I've seen that happen a few times in the base game. It's just really weird. Ooh, you found a comet. So, yeah, we're going to have to do the patches independently. We're going to push the patch out. I get it. Achievement friendly. You lose it. We have no way to go and get around that point. But the alternative is we submit this patch for 1.09 and you don't get it for 3 months. That's just not, we can't do that. So what we're going to have to basically do is, when I'm able to, I submit 1.09 for Bethesda review. It gets done at some point in the future. We push the patch out, ideally end of the day, so that everybody can get the patch right now. And then as we're working, I got a feeling what's going to happen here is we might be 2 or 3 versions ahead on our patch. while 1.09 is getting approved as the stable version of StarSim. And then we're slowly inching StarSim's creation copy of it up to whatever version we're on right now. But the benefit here is that you will always have the latest version every time we go through, and we'll keep updating the patch in parallel with everything that we're doing. Now, if we can get it so that, you know, we push a patch, but the problem is here, they show no favoritism. It's just you launch something, you're in the queue, and I appreciate that. So if we're starting to try to ask for preferential treatment, everybody else is suffering. So, like, I can't fault them for the approach they're doing, where it's just equal. It's just a queue, and they're working through the queue to get people's content out in a reasonable pace. So it is what it is in that whole flow, and then we'll keep the patch open so that we can keep things going. If we can find a way to convince them to make some ability for patches achievement friendly, but understand if that's the direction we take, and they do allow that, they must QA those patches as well for achievement friendly. So it doesn't really solve things. So really what's going to happen for StarSim and larger scale things, or anybody that's trying to patch stuff and not hold off on QA, is that achievement friendly is gone.
Ah, good. I suppose I should have guessed. It has been too long since I checked in.
You are the newest member, yes? Do they often send you to check up on other, more senior members? Dutifully following orders. I should not be frustrated with you. It is good that you have their trust. We waste time. We should complete our mission and then we can talk. Always worth checking. Never know what you might find in their pockets. We are not alone.
What, you got a death wish? Breathe!
I cannot wait to kill you.
Nice to find some meds to get, or like the thing that heals the like coughing.
Cough traps. I prefer honey lemon. That helps with coughing. Halls is fine, I guess. I prefer the, what's that one brand from Switzerland? Ricola? Ricoli? Those are really good. Cough meds can help. Say, are you doing long range shotgun? They don't work.
Yeah, it's the grenade launcher.
That is exceptionally good.
Take your best shot. Let's see. Do you have recommended difficulty in your space encounter to usually crank everything to extreme, but feel like that would be a terrible idea for
You
StarSim?
did not respond when I called to you after
but
you
remember,
created the artifact.
It goes
Does that
both
mean
ways.
the theory and experience were
So
correct? The
those
artifact grants the first
difficulty
person who touches
settings
it a
for
vision?
space encounters are benefiting ships that are allied to you just as much as they're benefiting the enemies. So theoretically, it depends. If it is it direct encounters that you're going after, then yeah, it could be tough.
The fact that it has happened to both
But I don't
you
think it
and Barrett
matters.
is
Like
already more than
whether
we
you're
had
playing
before.
on the easiest setting or
I
not, if you
think
go
it
into
is
an orbit that
important that we
contains
discuss
capital
what you
ships,
saw back there.
you're still dead.
That man.
They're one-shotting you, or they're
What I had
one-shotting you
done.
so much they got knocked into a whole nother universe.
It was, yes. I appreciate that you see it that way. A very practical outlook, not one I find is shared amongst members of Constellation. May I ask what your background is? You
Yes, you
prefer
were a minor
answers that
Argos
do not
extractors.
require you to commit to a position. I find this curious. I have also seen a great many things in my time.
That makes
Some
sense. I
quite
didn't really think about
dangerous.
ally ships getting
We
buzzed.
both
Yeah, I
seem
mean,
to
it,
be
it'll express itself
unusual
just in the situations where
additions
they're
to
space battles.
Constellation.
That's why Crimson Fleet
Please,
comes out
I
so
would
well
ask
in
that you not
StarSim,
mention to
because there's
Fallon
not
the
really any other battles. Actually,
circumstances
the other one I would
in
say
which
that's a
you
good
found
one to
me.
try out as well
This
is
not the first time that
failure to
Valrine
communicate.
zealots have attempted to
So
harm
actually,
me.
this is something that hasn't been conveyed
If it
much,
is known that
but
this has
a lot of
happened
these
again,
quests were
well,
random
it's been a while
in
since
terms
I
of how
was
they
given
would
an
start.
assignment on my own.
And so there were potentials
I
for
would
you to
not
never
want
get
it
some
to
of these
be
quests, depending on
even
how you're
longer
playing through the
in the
game.
future.
So you have Ground
you
Pounder,
understand?
and you've got Failure to Communicate, and the other ones on the map
You are
here.
unfamiliar.
That were
This is a
entirely
surprise.
like, there were
Few have not
conditions
heard of
for
them.
where you would go
They
that
are
would
fanatics,
potentially start those
having
quests
taken
up.
the teachings
But if you
of
were
House
following the
Faroon
quest
and
lines and not
twisted
really
them into a
exploring, there was a
belief that the
chance that you
galaxy
may not
must
get
be
those to start.
wiped
So we
clean
took
before the great
Ground
serpent's
Pounder
return.
and Failure to Communicate
So,
and hard-coded
in
them
this I would
into
say I
certain
have done the
orbits. So
galaxy
as you're
a favor.
traveling around, you have the potential to start those quests up. Pretty much anybody who's traveling along
This means we are
the
in
corridor from
agreement.
Crete to Jemison,
Thank you.
when you hit Altair,
That is
you're
good to
almost
know.
guaranteed to start
I will
Ground
finish
Pounder.
here and return to New
I
Atlantis
believe
when
it
I can.
still needs like
You
level
should go
5
now,
was the
as they will
default
be
way that
expecting
Bethesda
us.
set it up for when it starts. But situations like that, where as you're traveling around the network, you run into orbits that we set up to start the quest. Oh, yeah. Well, and the nice thing about the Gallbank loan missions is they send you to places that are going to be outside of the network, which gives you more opportunities to kind of daisy chain. So, like, we did this thing with the network where it's like 8 of the orbits on the fringes of it function like the base game used to work, where it was a random place you go to, so it kind of figured out an encounter to spawn. And we did this on purpose because you can't find the oracle for Shattered Space without going to an orbit that has those kind of keywords for them to show up, or watchtower starting up, things like that. So they can be sent to those 8 or the other 700 plus orbits that we don't have in the network. And then you daisy chain because now you're going to places where these quests normally would have started. But yeah, failure to communicate, there is that big battle at the end of it as well. So the folks that won combat, you got a lot of options now. Crimson Fleet and failure to communicate are the 2 that come to mind. No problem. Hope it's not a big thing. Thank you for your questions. We're wrapping up in 8 minutes anyway.
Pull out my save files for the next stream. Start
That's
that
gonna
many
be on-
new games, it just stacks up.
Oh, yeah. That'll be on Wednesday, I think you said. Monday, Wednesday, Thursday this week?
I think so.
Cool. Yeah, they're all events on Discord if anybody wants to set up notifications. You ain't doing so well, Zyla. Difficulty breathing.
Yeah.
You're low on save space.
Over encumbered.
Over encumbered.
I'd use this, but I don't have that many 11mm. What's actually weighing me down so much?
Actually, Zyla, this is a question for you. Are you playing on a console or a PC with a controller?
I'm playing on a PC with a controller. Surprised I still have Solomon's map and it's still stolen. Do I have anything in here for meds? Nah, it's just ship parts. I'm gonna turn off that quick saving. See if I can get back to Jamison before we hit the time.
You can do it. Just, don't rubber band into my gates, please. You can get there quick. You should be able to pull it off in 3 minutes. A few more gates. Oh, into an asteroid.
Or is it just being delayed?
That's a good question. You also smashed into a asteroid. Probably broke her grav drive. Well, it doesn't use the grav drive.
I think that was the gate I accidentally flew through when I did the cruise mode. So I think that's why I broke it a little bit.
That probably just fixed it.
Yeah.
I think the problem also is when you're, we basically made the triggers now for the gates a little more fine-tuned to the inside of the gate itself. It used to be a sphere when these used to be sphere gates, and that was part of the reason why you'd get rubber banded more often. But now that we have the changes we did in 1.09, it's basically just like a small cylinder that fits right inside the ring. Now the problem you can run into, and this is a problem that's plagued game development forever, is when the frame rate starts to drop, or however they're doing the physics tests, go a little bit technical in the game development. So you're flying your ship along and you're updating, and it's got a position, your position in space is whatever it is, 10, 10, 10, X, Y, and Z. And the trigger is wherever the trigger is. So you're running really fast and you're at 10, 10, 10, and the trigger is, right between where you're at. If you go fast enough, and this has been stuff that you can probably see in other games, the next time it does its check, you've already passed the trigger. And so that, over the years, has then had developers have to create, tests where they say, you know, what was my last position, what is my new position, and then like draw a line between the two and say, did I just go through the gate versus only checking against where the ship is now? I'd imagine because we're going so fast. Right. Oh, yeah. Exactly. Mario 64, I mean, all kinds of games had this problem over the years, and then developers have had to tackle it differently to fix the problem. So depending on how their physics is set up, and you're going really fast, faster typically than what the game was designed for. Remember, they're between 130 to 150 meters per second, and then your boost is like 500, 600. You're going fast enough where if it's not catching it, you just shot through the trigger, and then it just doesn't trigger at all.
You remember in Halo 3 and Halo Reach and Forge, getting like 2 teleports like underneath each other and speeding up faster and faster until it just ignores teleport if you're going that quick.
We were worried.
Why? Was there a concern
Look at how
that
you
I
made
would
it
not
back to
contribute to
the
mission?
lodge even,
No.
and just hit 201.
We thought you might be hurt.
Oh,
I think after this scene's done, we'll
then
save it and call it for today.
thank you,
Yeah.
but it was not
Awesome.
necessary. We succeeded.
I suppose I could stop it now since I need to interact for progress it.
I go back to development. I think Sarah's gonna be here soon, so we'll finish all this stuff up, and then I'm really trying hard to push the patch tonight. We just need to. We can't push the patch if we're not confident that everything in there is to standard. So Sarah and I have to really kind of run it through over the next few hours and just be confident. But I do feel a little more comfortable after seeing you use it here. We just need to do a little bit of performance improvements.
At least nothing like hard broke. I kept going.
Right. And you did definitely do multiple plot courses, so I do
Yeah.
think I'm going to investigate the one thing here, but I think that's good. I think the issue more is timing, where which I'll actually put in here right now. I think the issue is our self-healing code that backs up mapping. So it's been a problem for a while, right? Like, you have to be very careful. Anything you're doing with the way the papyrus works, anything that the player's got to do, you need to make sure that that is very responsive. So if anything else is happening in the mapping system and then you do a plot course, you have to wait for that other thing to completely finish before the plot course thing can go. That's not ideal. So we'll have to look and just do some tweaks to speed that up so that plot course is obviously the highest priority. The Bream Reaper, yo.
You and I both know you have the credits to spare. And you
Currently 3 minutes over. Do we want to
Yeah.
end the stream?
Let's do it, yeah. So I'll go hop back into working on the rest of this right now. So we did a lot today. Got to show off a lot of stuff.
Yeah, break a lot of stuff. Thanks for showing up for the stream.
Yep, thanks everyone. And hopefully in a few hours I'll push an announcement for 1.09.
Bye.
And then,
oh,
no, you're good. Yeah. No, we'll let everybody know in on the Discord once we push 1.09, and then I think everybody grabbing that, most of the major issues should be ironed out. So, should be a good basis for us to move forward in, and then we'll get the ship balancing in, and then we're set.
I
All right.
finished.
Thanks everybody for coming,
Whoops.
and we'll see you later.
Bad timing for that.
And you know, a car in the background.
Bye.
See you later.
The void is yours.